Welcome to the Newberry Center for Renaissance Studies Learning from Premodern Plagues video series. This installment is titled News and the Novel, Daniel Defoe's Journal of the Plague Year. I'm Jill Gage, custodian of the John M. Wing Foundation on the History of Printing and bibliographer for British Literature and History at the Newberry Library. Daniel Defoe's 1722 novel, Journal of the Plague Year, is a fictionalized account of the 1665 plague outbreak in London that killed an estimated 100,000 people, roughly 15% of London's population at the time. While the story is historical, the impetus for writing it was the threat of a new plague outbreak in London in the 1720s. Now, certainly much had changed in London between 1665 and 1722. In fact, the plague of 1665 was one of the contributing factors in the late 17th century that worked to create new modes of literary production. So, for the next few minutes, I'd like to talk about the emerging genre of the novel and how novels might be read alongside the rise of journalism and newspapers in the period. Here we have the title page of the 1722 edition of the novel, and I'd like to focus on three words that we see here: journal, public, and private. The word journal means diary, so readers were meant to believe that this was the private writing of someone who had lived through the plague 57 years earlier. And this veracity or pseudo veracity is echoed in the authorial statement found at the bottom of the page. Now, Defoe's name does not appear on the title page. Instead, the book claims to be written by a citizen who continued all the while in London, never made public before. One of the appeals of novels is that they offer readers a window into the lives, thoughts, and feelings of individuals one might not normally encounter. Readers in 1722 might have relished the chance to read someone's private thoughts about a crisis which they themselves might soon be facing. What was it like to live in isolation under threat of sickness and death? And what was happening in the streets of London while everyone was locked inside? Defoe's narrator does not stay at home, but instead wanders the streets of London, recording the sights, sounds, and stories he encounters there, sort of like a journalist. And in fact, the novel does read like a journalistic account of the plague. While the word journal in the title certainly means diary in this instance, it can also refer to a periodical. Periodicals were printed information that printed in regular intervals or periodically. Newspapers and periodicals were also new in the late 17th century, and the 1665 plague contributed to their evolution. There were, in fact, no newspapers as we know them in 1665 London, so people got their news about the plague in part through printed broadsides called the Bills of Mortality, one of which we see on the left-hand side. I will say that the Newberry owns both of these things, but the images we see here are from Ebo on the left and Echo on the right. The bills of mortality were published weekly and listed the number of deaths the previous week, the causes of those deaths, and where in London they occurred. They did not offer any personal information, just data, but they instilled in people a kind of news consciousness and thus functioned as a sort of prototype newspaper. While novels were meant to reflect private thoughts, newspapers were part of a larger public sphere, and people often read them in public places like coffee houses. In his novel, Defoe cleverly combines the public and private spheres by reproducing parts of the bills of mortality on the pages of the book. His narrator then reads an older form of news about the plague while simultaneously offering a more contemporary journalistic account of 1665 London for new readers. In the post-plague period, readers' desire for up-to-date news and information and publishers' attempt to monetize that desire meant that news became a narrative of daily life. This mix of new materials in the marketplace allowed writers like Defoe to experiment with new and longer narrative forms, like the novel. Early novels occupied an intriguing gray area where they meant to be read as fact or as fiction or as something in between. Ultimately, Journal of the Plague Year is a novel of the past written for new readers, readers who were born in part out of that 1665 plague experience. Thus, Defoe's work serves to remind us how a period of crisis actually pushed forward new and exciting modes of literary production and consumption. Thank you so much for tuning in to Learning from Premodern Plagues. A new installment will be made available soon. Please be in touch with any questions by emailing renaissance@newberry.org. As always, stay well.